What's up, traders? What's up, tycoons? Super excited for today's video. We're going to break down the airlines, starting off with the Jets ETF. We'll break it down on the daily chart. Some very promising things happening here. We'll also take a look at the, relationship between airlines and oil prices. Obviously, oil and energy and, fuel is going to be a huge cost to airlines. So you want to have an understanding of the correlation that they have. So I'll break that down for you guys. We'll also take a look at Boeing. Okay, take a look at Boeing on the daily chart, ticker symbol BA. We'll look at LUV. All right, this is going to be Southwest Airlines. We'll zoom out on LUV and then actually zoom in a little bit on the daily chart and zoom in even more to the 1 hour chart. Okay, I know a couple Discord members are in some of these airline stocks, so we're going to break them down. And I think that there's some really interesting setups here when it comes to the airlines. But as always, the content provided on this channel is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be relied upon as legal, financial, or investment advice. So please be sure to read through the disclaimer. If you're new to the channel, I started a completely free newsletter for you guys, Investment Intelligence, giving out free trade ideas, free trading content, free finance content. You can get those delivered straight to your inbox, right? And once or twice a week, I try to sprinkle these with some trade ideas, right? And this is what the trade ideas will look like, highlighting, the chart conditions, showing you guys the chart. As you can see, this rising wedge here played out perfectly as we predicted on the newsletter, and I try to put really high quality setups in the newsletter, right? That's why I'm not spamming you guys with, 5 stocks a day and overloading you guys with information. Rather, it's going to be just a few high quality setups that you guys can analyze and see if they meet your risk profile. Okay, so sign up for the newsletter if you're fans of free valuable finance content, free trading content, and free trade ideas sent directly straight to your inbox. Otherwise, you can actually join the Investment Intelligence Discord for $1. One simple dollar will get you into the Discord right now using promo code Black Friday. That is going to end on Monday night. And it's basically giving it away for free. So for a simple dollar, you guys can get in. Carnival Cruise Lines was a play that we've been in for a while, and you can see that this trade played out very, very nicely. Okay, people are making over 5 figures on it. IWM also had a really tremendous day. If you remember a week or two ago, IWM absolutely skyrocketed. It had one of the most bullish single days. We actually got in the day before that and caught the entire move. All right, so sign up for the Discord, and it's only $1 using that promo code. Otherwise, you can just sign up for the free newsletter if $1 is too much for you to pay, right? Now, let's get into the video and go over Jets on the daily time frame. Some really interesting things happening here. So the first things that I see when it comes to airlines is we've broken a major long-term downtrend, right? We rejected this 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times, and we finally broke out. Now, we're not super zoomed out here, so you can't see, but this green box right here is a very long-term demand zone. And these blue boxes on all of my charts and all of my videos, these are gaps, right? I like to chart these gaps as bright blue boxes and set alerts around these gaps because oftentimes these are good trading opportunities. Now, there's many ways that gaps can react, right? One of them is they can act as support and resistance. So if you see in this case, the gap down acted as support. We found support just above that gap, which also happened to be the demand zone, and we started rising up. Number 2 is they can be good trading opportunities because, there's a good chance that these gaps are going to fill. About 90% of the time, historically, these gaps fill. The big question, right, when it comes down to it, is when. Are these gaps going to fill quickly within days, weeks, or months, or is it going to take years for these gaps to fill? There's different types of gaps. There's breakaway gaps, there's runaway gaps, and there's exhaustion gaps. If we take a look here, this is not an exhaustion gap. An exhaustion gap would be showing signs of a reversal and filling the gap. What we're doing is we're actually running away right now. So I'm a little bit more bullish, but you do have to be open to the fact that, this could be a little bit of a rising wedge right here, and we could come down and fill that gap. Now, is that the end of the day, right? Well, no, not really. I mean, if we look here, we have a left shoulder, we have a head. If we were to come down and fill that gap, that would put in a clean right shoulder. Even now, we could say that we're putting in a right shoulder, right? If you take a look at this box right here, old resistance again, if we're able to break up above here, that could still be a head and shoulders, but it still could all the way drop down and fill that gap and still be a very clean inverse head and shoulders. So I'm not too worried right now when it comes to the airlines. They seem to be having multiple bullish setups. You just have to manage your risk accordingly, right? And so the overall ETF as a whole looks very good to me. Oftentimes on these major moves to the downside, you'll see a retracement to the 50% level. Look what's right there, our 200-day moving average. So it would make a lot of sense if this was to play out and take us back up towards that 200-day moving average. But keep in mind that this is going to gravitate lower as trading days proceed. And so we may not make it all the way up to the 50% retracement level at 1858. We could blow past it, right? And we could head up to the 61.8 at 1950. Now, keep in mind that once you get above the 61.8% retracement level and you're able to hold above that level, the odds of a 100% retracement greatly increase. Now, we are very, very, very far away from it, right? We're just now above 23.6% retracement level, which is the first fib. So there's still lots of work to be done. But just keep in mind, if this thing really does rally, and let's say we do get this inverse head and shoulders to play out, ultimately, in the long run, it will be bullish if we can get above and hold above 1950. But again, there's lots of work to be done before then. And we're much more focused on the short term, right? Staying above 1652 and heading up to the next target around 1766 and potentially 1858 if we can get above that 200-day moving average. Now let's break down some individual names within the sector. But before we do, actually, we'll take a look at the correlation between airlines and oil prices. So take a look how we're going up here, going down here. All right. Very, very simple stuff. And, you take a look and you can see that, crude oil has been in a downtrend, right? And we're starting to see, from this exact point, we're starting to see a little bit of a flatlining when it comes to the airlines. Now, it's not always going to be 100% correlation. If you take a look, there's many times where crude oil and airlines are both going up, but you can see where, things basically shifted, right? Over here, essentially, if we were to take a look at this point right here and draw a line down, we can see that jets really started tanking at this point when the airline or when crude oil prices really started skyrocketing. And then crude oil fell a little bit. But what happened is, you have to remember Wall Street is very greedy. So let's say they entered in up here and say, hey, oil looks like it's in a strong uptrend, is going to continue going higher. And so they start shorting here and they come down and we're at this point now. All right. What are they going to do? What is greedy Wall Street going to do? Are they going to close their short positions because oil has started going down? No, they're very, very greedy, right? And oftentimes they double down on their positions at these points where you think they would close just to increase the selling pressure, right? And because they know demand is weak, right? There was a support level over here. And, basically they said, hey, we can push through this support level, have that final push down, right? And ever since then, that's really when we saw the normal correlation come back, right? Where we're seeing oil prices go down and now we're starting to see the airlines start to rally. So if oil does continue to go down, this could be very bullish for the airlines, right? And could cause them to basically continue going higher. But you have to be mindful of oil and energy. Okay, if those start to tick back up again, it's very possible that this trend can continue downwards, right? Now, even looking at this line chart right here, we can see the possible inverse head and shoulder setup, right? We see right here the large downtrend, left shoulder, head, coming up, right shoulder here, and it's very possible we could get something like this. So we're not just going to count it out completely. We know that oil and energy don't always have a perfectly inverse relationship. But we do know that typically if energy and oil prices are going higher, it's very common to see the airlines go down further, right? And this was something that would really fueled that Carnival Cruise Lines trade that we talked about and mentioned before in the Discord, right? I wasn't necessarily in the airlines. I was a lot more bullish on Carnival because of the earnings report. Okay, and they were seeing record numbers of bookings and cruises. You have a large amount of people retiring, just even choosing to live on cruises, right? And saying, hey, well, it's cheaper to live on a cruise and just book a cruise, for years and years and years than pay a mortgage, right? And pay homeowners insurance and pay all these different bills and things like that. So, there was a reason that I got into Carnival Cruise personally versus the airlines. But either way, both of them played out very tremendously, right? I mean, if you look from the recent lows to the highs, cruise lines and airlines have both had a significant rally. So, energy going lower, oil prices going lower will positively impact things like the airlines. And maybe perhaps a good way is to actually hedge yourself with a little bit of energy or a little bit of something related to the oil aspect as a way to hedge yourself if you are trying to go long airlines. All right, when we look at Boeing's BA on the daily chart, you can see also we broke an aggressive downtrend here and we had a super aggressive move to the upside. And actually, BA is above its 61.8% retracement level, right? And so we talked about here about, getting above that 61.8% retracement level. That's when the odds increase of getting that full 100% retracement. If we look at from the most recent highs to the lows, we are above that 100% retracement level. So for BA, for Boeing, it's going to be very important to hold above 217.85. If we break below 217.85, we do have some support levels down below, but be mindful of the gap, right? There's a gap down to fill right around 196, 197. And it's very possible that, hey, you know what, maybe a little bit of this momentum dies off. It kind of went up in a straight line, and we could see that gap fill down below. But ultimately, if it fills that gap and finds support right around here, around 196.28, it's very possible we can continue heading upward and ultimately reach a bullish price target of 243.91. Now, these aren't very short-term targets, okay? These targets are going to take weeks to potentially months to play out. So keep that in mind. If you want to play shorter term, basically above 217.85, it's possible we can hit 227.63. Below 217.85, we can hit 209.94 and we can hit 202.03, right? So if you're into shorter term trading, those are going to be the levels. These are going to be the levels that you want to pay attention to. But if you're in it for the longer run, it's very possible if momentum continues again, the odds increase once you're above the 61.8% retracement level of getting that full 100% retracement, which would take us up around 242 to 244, roughly in that range. Now look at the RSI, it's very overbought. So this is kind of why I have this scenario drawn out here. It doesn't mean that it has to collapse. This actually shows that there's lots of strength in the stock and lots of momentum. And if it were to simply trade sideways and chop above that 217.85 area or even around that area, that's going to be a bullish sign. But you do want to be mindful of the possibility for a pullback, right? And let's say energy pops for a little bit and we see airlines drop. I don't want you guys to be panicked. I want you guys to actually understand the price action and understand maybe why things are happening, right? So if energy does bounce a little bit, it would make a little bit of sense for Boeing and for airline stocks to pull back, right? So, just keep an open mind and understand how the markets move and how, institutions and market makers view a lot of the different sectors and how they correlate. If we look at Southwest, ticker symbol LUV on the daily chart, we had a long-term demand zone back from 2020. And you can see we actually came down back into that demand zone, had a small liquidity grab where they broke demand. Oftentimes a liquidity grab is basically going to be where they don't have enough enough money or enough liquidity to make this move up that they just made. And so what they do is they know people are looking here and looking at the bottom of this demand zone, and they say, well, there's a good chance that a lot of people have a stop loss below this level. So we'll trigger their stop loss below this level, get the liquidity that we need to actually drive the price higher, right? And so this is something that I like to call a liquidity grab. But when we zoom in even closer, on the daily time frame, one of my favorite patterns is developing right now. Now, it's not confirmed, but it's an inverse bump and run indicated by the prevailing downtrend and then this aggressive bump down in price. This makes the inverse bump and run. And so now that we have the aggressive bump down in price and we're starting to break out, this is the run part of the pattern. And in a perfect world scenario, what's going to happen is you're actually going to run up to the initial trend line that you started the pattern at and potentially even break out to where the pattern formation began, which would take, something like love back up to the 40s, 45s, and potentially even the 50s. Now we're very, very far away from there. That's basically 100% move. And so a lot of things would need to go right. Okay. So it's just something we're watching as a potential setup, and not necessarily saying that, hey, love is about to go up 100% within the next 6 months to a year, right? That's very hard to predict. But what we can do is just use this analysis to, give us some parameters and give us some ideas. If we look at our daily chart, you guys know those bright blue boxes are gaps up. There's gaps up around $35 and $37. Okay, we're trading at $25 almost right now. That's a long way up to go if those gaps were to fill, and very, very juicy returns. If we zoom in even a little bit more on the 1 hour time frame, what do we see right here? Well, we can see that we've got a little bit of a channel here, right? So we broke that long-term downtrend. We can see we're in a little bit of a channel here, but when we look at our RSI, remember, this is going to be a leading indicator, right? Meaning it's going to indicate what could potentially happen in the future versus something like a MACD, which is a lagging indicator. When if you take a look, we had the bearish crossover right here. So the bearish indicator on the lagging indicator, basically spotted out the bottom. Now, what does it do? It shows you what's happened after it's already happened. Meanwhile, the bearish divergence, where we're creating a high, lower high, but creating a high, higher high, and higher high on the price, that's the definition of a bearish divergence on the RSI, indicates that it's very possible we could break this uptrend that we're in right now. Okay. And so if that happens, it's not the end of the world. You would look at 2341, 2313, 2284, and 2249 as potential support areas to continue going up higher. Now, if we can get above 2559, again, that's our 61.8% retracement level, the odds increase of a 100% retracement to the upside, where we could potentially hit 2649, if not 2890. So there are some good setups here. Bearish divergence also doesn't have to mean bearishness, right? If we break out of this bearish divergence, that's going to be extremely bullish. And on a RSI, that divergence doesn't always have to be a breakout, retest, and push higher. Oftentimes, it can just be a breakout and move sideways, right? So if we break out and are able to move sideways or move higher on the RSI, that's going to be a very bullish look for love for Southwest Airlines. But if we reject this area here and head lower, it's going to be a very clear indicator that, hey, the chances are we're going to break this recent channel that we have, this up channel right here, this bullish channel, and that we're going to see a retracement down to some of these support levels that I just gave you guys. So definitely keep an eye on those. Don't forget to join the Investment Intelligence Discord. You can get in for only $1 right now. I'm basically giving it away for free. Again, there's many millionaires in the group. There's silent millionaires, and we don't try to expose anybody's, wealth. We don't try to discriminate against people only making $100 or people making $10,000 a trade. That's not the goal. And at the end of the day, it's really to just create an environment where people feel comfortable asking questions, and people have an environment where they can look at potential high quality setups and have a plethora of high quality setups to choose from and choose something that fits their risk profile and know the risks going ahead. And ultimately, to be a successful winner, you have to be a great loser. And what that means is that you have to define your risk, take those losses, move on from those losses, accept them for what they are, because every single trader takes losses, right? I take many losses. everybody you know ever takes losses, and that's actually what makes them successful. Is they don't let their portfolio drop 90% because they didn't take a loss when they were down 10%, and just kept buying the dip, buying the dip, buying the dip, and something and eventually lost all of their portfolio. It's more about risk management and wealth preservation, and that's some of the principles that I teach in the Investment Intelligence Discord. If you don't want to sign up for the Discord and $1 is too much for this Black Friday sale, please join the Investment Intelligence newsletter. Okay, subscribe to that. Both of those links are in the description. You will get free valuable finance content, free trading content, and free trade ideas once to twice a week from that newsletter. Please feel free to share that newsletter with people that you think would be interested. You're going to really appreciate and enjoy both of those, whichever one for you ended up subscribing to or signing up to. You will definitely appreciate them, and hopefully you appreciated the content in today's video. If you did, you can always book me for a one-on-one coaching session. I do 30-minute or 1-hour coaching sessions. All of the Discord members also do get a discount on those coaching sessions. So you do want to be mindful of that. If you're ever interested, head on over to the Ko-Fi page using the link in description, click on commissions. That's where you can book a 30-minute or 1-hour session. You can also request a YouTube video on the specific topic of your choice, or you can click on this buy a coffee button basically as a way to leave a tip or donation for the free valuable content I do put out for you all.